The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are finally here with the debut episode of Shootin'. And joining me, as always, are, besides myself, DDJ, I've got to my left the premier Joey K, and down below us is the hot one, Jay Menacho. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Shootin'. All right, let's get right into it. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Good.
All right, don't speak all at once, guys.
We're all good, brother. It's Friday night. The feeling is right. Joey K, the premier up there. How you doing?
The A1 since day one, the Pacific Island Playboy, the premier Joey K, ready to throw some real noise at you tonight. Let's go, boys. Let's have a show.
All right. So we are going to kick off this. Last weekend was a really big weekend in the world of professional wrestling for many reasons. But our first little topic here. All right, gentlemen, it was a busy weekend last week in the world of pro wrestling. Lots of great shows from Impact to Ring of Honor to NXT to WWE. Gentlemen, your favorite match from SummerSlam weekend. Jovan, the hot one, let's start off with you.
I'm going to give you my hot pick of the weekend. That means if you have just one time, 30-minute block to watch one match, this is the match you need to go back and watch. I am a sucker for sequels. I love when we get the second match, that second matchup between two guys who can go with each other. It's exactly what you got with Walter and Ilya Dragunov. It was an amazing match, great finish, and I may have cried a little bit at that one because I really felt that finish. I thoroughly enjoyed that match.
All right, Premier, what do you got?
That's real tough to follow. It's one of those few matches, or you can go anywhere from movies or even books, that is the sequel going to match the original? And to me, it really did. So that's a hard one. But the premiere was live and ringside. Glory by Honor, Ring of Honor show at the world famous 2300 Arena. And night one had my match of the weekend, which was Violence Unlimited versus LFI. The match was amazing. It got thrown out in the first minute and a half. They restarted it as a Philly street fight, and it lived up to every bit of carnage and violence that you can imagine. The crowd was crazy hot for it. Everybody's behind Tony Deppen to get him signed. He's not signed by Ring of Honor, which is an absolute crime. If you watch him in GCW, he's amazing there. He's amazing all across the country, wherever he's at. But, man, that match was just absolute chaos. Everybody working hard, going nuts. And to me, it blew away anything I saw at, let's say, SummerSlam, for instance. And really, the only match close to it is what we already heard, the NXT UK title match.
Man, good takes. I haven't gotten to watch that match yet, but I finally started watching Glory by Honor night one, and I cannot wait to get to that, especially after hearing it. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, you got to be part of the entrance for one Chris Dickinson, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I did. We were on the side, and I was wearing my Violence Unlimited shirt, and I'm holding it up, and he comes running over, and the camera's following him, and he leans back in the crowd, so we're all with him. And spoiler, night 2, actually, Homicide stole my signs from me to take into the ring. So those signs that he's holding up, those were mine. Yeah, and he was cool enough to bring them back to me before they split from the ring, and I was like, even better. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Nice.
So cool.
That's awesome, man. I'm gonna have to go down. Agree with Jovan here, the hot one. Man, I was so excited when this match got announced for Takeover 36. I was excited when it got announced for NXT UK, but then when I heard they were Walter had his injury, and then when they announced the match was going to happen at Takeover, I thought this is the best possible thing that could have happened because more eyes need to be on this match, because I don't think had this been on an NXT UK broadcast, it wouldn't have gotten nowhere near the number of views or, the eyes on it as it did with this when it went on being on Takeover. And man, did it live up to the hype. I mean, very few times out there does a sequel, come to or surpass the original. I mean, you talk about great sequels like Back to the Future to The Godfather Part 2. Then there's stinkers like Grease 2 and, and that kind of stuff. So sometimes the sequel doesn't always measure up to the original. This is one of those cases where it did. How Dragunov, I'd be anxious to see how he felt a couple days later because his chest looked like ground up hamburger meat. And that stuff. So, but I can't say enough about that. And like Jovan said, if you can only go watch one match from that weekend, go watch Walter versus Ilya Dragunov. So another one of the reasons why last weekend was such a big weekend is because we saw the long-awaited return of one CM Punk, and he got quite the ovation that when he was introduced to the crowd at the United Center, and that kind of leads us to our next topic here. So CM Punk got probably an all-time pop, but did he get the biggest pop ever? And if you say no, who's gotten the biggest pop you've ever heard? Joey, let's lead off with you this time.
Man, that's one of the harder questions to answer, really. I mean, who gets the bigger pop? There's some factors that go into it. First of all, the size of the crowd. So it's hard to judge. Obviously, if there's more people in attendance, more people going crazy for something, you probably get a bigger pop. But you couple that and divide it by the emotion behind it, all those things. I mean, it's fair to say that's probably the biggest pop of all time. I mean, were there as many fans as there was in Wembley in SummerSlam 92 when Davey Boy came out? No. And that was crazy. That's a crazy pop, one of the biggest of all time. Mm-hmm. But every single person went absolutely bananas in that arena, and watching it live, I was just like goosebumps. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't say I watched it live. Actually, as soon as I got home, I hit the DVR. I watched it because I was down in Philly. But I mean, we were just like, whoa, blown away. So you know what? I'm just gonna say, yeah, it was Punk, just because of the perfect storm. 7 years away, the promo that he cut. My God. It was just like he never missed a beat. It was amazing. So all in all, I'll take it. Plus, if you throw a commercial break in a pop, you're definitely that's one of the biggest pops of all time. They cut the commercial, they came back, and it's still going on. They played his song 2.5 times before he even could get a word in.
Something like that.
Come on, that was wild. Hot one, what you got for me?
Brother, I have what they call legendary pops in wrestling. There's one legendary pop that everybody always compares it to. They always say, oh, you may have had a big pop, you may have had the crowd behind you, but do you have a Road Warriors pop? When the Warriors came out, the sheer mass of them, the way they looked, the power and energy that was flowing through everybody. Everybody went ape. Hit the delay for me, DDJ. Everybody went ape when the Road Warriors came out. Now, that was the measuring stick. It's always that Road Warriors pop. That's what they always say. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, CM Punk, I think it should be the Punk Pop. You had the perfect storm of it being in his hometown. The crowd sold out a 15,000-seat arena on the whim that he was going to be there. Not the promise, but the possibility of this man being there. And the moment they go live, the moment his music, even before his music hit, Chicago is chanting for Punk. Chicago loves Punk. I don't know if there's any other wrestler out there right now that enjoys such a hometown boost than CM Punk. Chicago made Punk. Guys, pop of the bar. That pop is the bar.
So there's a couple other ones that are in the running here, and I was kind of going back and forth on one of them. The one but I am one that I will always remember was I believe it was January of 2002 when Triple H returned to Madison Square Garden. That was a big pop.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the only other pop I've ever heard in all the years I've been watching wrestling that comes close to what we heard last Friday night was on January 4th, 1999, and that was when during the match in which Mick Foley won the WWF title, when that glass shattered and Austin came out to the ring to help clear out the corporation and hit The Rock with the chair. That, to the point, and it's to a certain extent, was the loudest pop I think I'd ever heard in terms of how loud it actually was. But and I was thinking about this, and and kind of what I'm about to say is going to explain why I'm going the way I am. That was a loud pop, but to me, it wasn't sustained. Like you guys alluded to through the commercial break, which great touch by, I believe it was Excalibur during that, when they were going in the commercial, said in 90 seconds, we will be back. Like he told the people, like, hang on, you're going to hear him here in 90 seconds. That's how long this break is. So that was a really nice touch there. But
yeah, I think he said specifically, DJ, not to cut you, but I think he said you've waited 7 years, wait 90 seconds more, and CM Punk speaks when we come back.
Right. And there was just something, I mean, the whole time, just the crowd was going crazy. Punk was really basking in the glow. I actually, after my physical therapy session earlier this afternoon, I stopped by the sports card shop that's like in the same little plaza where I go for therapy is. And one of the guys that works there is a big wrestling fan. I've gotten to know him over the last couple weeks. And he showed me a video. He was actually, when CM Punk did the, where he went to almost like he was going to jump in the crowd, like he actually literally jumped in my friend's lap. Like I saw the video and it was so cool. And it's just, everybody was going crazy. People, were crying, and we're actually going to get into one specific person here in just a little bit. But I mean, from the whole time he when the music started playing, the whole time he talked, when he left, that crowd did not stop. That was what you call a sustained pop. And for that reason, and that reason mainly, I have to say this is probably the single biggest pop I've ever heard. So, and so we've alluded to it. Let's move on to our next topic here. So basically, by now, everyone's pretty much well aware of the crying guy, who I believe he's been dubbed. The camera's caught and the picture's gone literally viral of this guy who was obviously very moved by what we saw, to the point where he was in tears. Now, and this is one of the downfalls of social media, is you're going to have your trolls that are going to sit there and say, oh, blah, blah, blah. He shouldn't be crying. He's a guy, whatever. Clearly the guy was caught, up in the moment, which I think every single person that was there at the United Center, along with those of us who are watching on TV, I mean, he's gotten so much notoriety. Tommy Dreamer reached out and was like, "Hey, this guy is a real fan. I want to fly him out to, I believe it was Bound for Glory or something, and there's people reaching out, and it kind of goes in that aspect to show you the good side of professional wrestling. And guys, crying guy, what are your thoughts on it? And I'm going to lead off. I'm not ashamed to admit I cry. I cried at the end of Avengers Endgame when Tony Stark died during the funeral. I still get emotional when I see that. Anytime I watch the episode of Monday Night Raw the night after Owen Hart died, I still cry. I cried my son's first day of first grade when he was upset that his friend wasn't going to be in his class. And I have no shame in admitting I cry. And I sympathize with this guy. I think, you know what? The emotions got the best of him. He doesn't deserve all the crap he got. And I, for one, you know what? More power to him. Guys, what do you have to say? Hot One, let's start with you.
All right, man. Toxic Masculinity 101, men should never cry. Let's break that. Let's get that out of here. Number one, men, cry if you want to. I cried. I cry a lot. Mufasa died, I cried. Eddie Guerrero died, I cried. Chris Benoit died, I cried. I don't care if you don't like the Benoit comment. I was a Benoit fan, so forget it. I cried. Punk, man, came back, and I got chills. I followed Punk's whole career. I've since ROH. Indie stuff before, not so much, but ROH, yes. They're in Chicago. They love this man there. The fans there were there for him. So these are going to be people who honestly, to their core, support this guy. And you had a fan who was taken in by the moment. That's a hell of a moment. We just said it's the biggest pop we've ever heard. The electricity is in the air. You've got goosebumps. You're feeling it, and you're crying because you never thought you would see something like this because he's been gone 7 years. I'm down with it. Internet wrestling community, you guys suck. Be better. Honestly, to come after everybody for what shows you like, what shows you don't like. You can't share honest opinions anymore. You can't feel emotions for the shows anymore. You can't, voice how you're really feeling anymore. Why do we even do this then? Why are we fans if we're only here to shit on each other? Guys, grow up. We're not supposed to be poking fun at each other. There's plenty of people who aren't wrestling fans. They're going to be like, oh, well, it's fake. How you... Screw all the noise. We're all fans of the same damn thing. You like what you like. The emotions hit everybody different. That's what they're trying to do, is tell a story that gets you invested. That man was invested. I'm invested with him. Cry on, bro. Cry on.
Man. All right. So I'm gonna shoot with a lot of stuff here, and I'm gonna just rapid fire it. I agree with absolutely everything you guys both said. Especially let's get past this tough guy stigma that men don't cry. And if people want to really, the outside world really wants to kind of come at professional wrestling, oh, look at this grown man crying, that kind of BS. Let me be clear. Who hasn't watched a movie that got them emotional? Who hasn't read a book or a TV show or something that just hit them a certain way?
Yep.
There's a lot of times that I got real emotional at wrestling. Pretty much almost everything you guys said here, like some of these tribute shows from Owen to, of course the Benoit show was before, we found out what really happened. So in that moment, yeah. The Eddie Guerrero show. I mean, geez.
Brody Lee, bro.
Brody Lee hit me. Brody Lee hit me hard. That was terrible. And I'm gonna be straight with you. I'm a grown man. I cried like a baby when my children were born. I mean, straight up. I'm dead serious. I have a very strong emotional connection to AEW when it was in Philly, and I've kind of put this story out in certain places, but straight out, I was super emotional that night. That was 3 weeks after my daughter passed away. So I haven't done anything. I didn't leave the house. my wife was struggling with everything, and we were together, and we had got tickets for the show well before, we knew anything was wrong. And, my brother and I were going to have a great night. It's amazing. The first AEW show in Philly. It's the third show ever of Dynamite, and, man, then everything that happened, and I did not want to go. And I was just like, whatever, sell the tickets. I'm sure find a friend, somebody else will go. I don't care. It's the way I felt. My wife kind of like looked at me and was like, just go, get out of the house for a night, get away from things for a few minutes. And so I did, and we went, and the show was great. I mean, it was awesome. I ended up having a great time. Got to meet Cody after the show, super cool. And I just kind of walked out of the arena. It was the Leacourt Center in Philly, Temple University, and man, it just kind of hit me, and it's not so much the wrestling, it was everything going on in life at that moment. But wrestling's that escape, wrestling's that entertainment. And that guy getting grief from anybody, especially the IWC, especially the people that say they're fans of the same damn thing, I have a massive problem with that. I have no respect for that. You're not a fan. What, you like some flashy show, you have somebody's favorite entrance music or whatever, get out of here, dude. You're not a fan. If you don't get into it, if you're not feeling that emotion, that's not for you. Go find something else. Go play disc golf. Go play whatever. I don't care. Do something different with your life. So I love it. And I don't know if you guys know Crying Guy. I don't know what else to call him. Finally put something up on Twitter just a little while ago.
Oh wow.
So I'm gonna read this to you.
Yeah.
He tagged Punk, he tagged Khan, he tagged Toby, Tommy Dreamer. He said, a week ago, I was fortunate enough to be part of something I have loved for 35 years. It's clear the appreciation we as fans have does not go unnoticed. This wasn't the first time, won't be the last time I shed a tear. Thank you all.
Hell
I
yeah.
mean,
Well put.
I couldn't put it any better. It's true. It's true. If you're a fan, get lost, be entertained, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Go with the laughs, go with crying, emotional, everything in between.
All out. If Crying Guy is a Chicago native, dude, I want to buy you a beer, bro.
I'm sure this guy's probably going to be there, no doubt at that point.
Yeah.
So.
And it's funny, Joe, because as I was listening to tell your story, first off, condolences to you and your wife. I can't imagine what that had to be like, and stuff. But then you telling your story about going to the show shortly after the death of your daughter kind of made me think about a couple years ago when my dad passed away, and I had gotten tickets to go to an MLW show, and it was literally like 2 days after my dad had passed away, and when he passed away, I wasn't going to go. Like, I was basically everything that you just detailed there. I was going through. I felt it's like I was reliving that day as you were telling that story, because it was everything you went through. That's what I went through when my dad passed away. And I remember talking with my cousin Jerry, who was going to be coming up from where he lived down in Indiana, and stay with me because he was coming up for the show, and we were going with a bunch of guys. And I remember talking to him about it. It's like, I don't know if I should go or not and stuff. And I just remember talking to my mom about it. And I said, Mom, I have the show I was going to go to with, Bub and the guy, my friends and stuff, but if you need me to be with you and be at your house and stay with you, I'll do it. And she said, no, go. She said, it's what your dad would have wanted. And that's all I needed to hear. That was exactly what I needed to hear. And I'm sure you can attest to this, Joe. It's probably the best thing we could have done for ourselves was go to those shows, because like you said, wrestling is an escape. Yeah. And it's just, all my friends were like, that were there were like, man, I'm so glad you came. And people that my friends with that I didn't go with, but were at the show, they came over, I talked with them and they asked how I was doing and stuff. But again, like I can't really add anything more to what you guys gentlemen had to say about the Crying Guy and stuff, because I think you guys both really nailed it with your takes on there. So, kind of on a lighter note, or a more fun note here. Many of you guys, ladies and gentlemen, know very well. CM Punk broke the internet. CM Punk broke shopaew.com. CM Punk broke prowrestlingtees.com. In fact, Pro Wrestling Tees, I believe Ryan just recently announced in the VIP group and stuff that they've implemented now something similar to what like they do with a lot of like the ticket masters when everybody's buying ticket. They have like a queue system. So, so what this does is when something happens like what we saw with CM Punk, and everybody wants to go buy the shirt. Instead of like the site crashing, you get put into a queue. So, which I think is a great idea because again, it's going to prevent the site from crashing and that. So, and that kind of, and then obviously too with all that, literally there are no black ringer white T-shirts out there anymore because apparently Pro Wrestling Tees bought them all to fulfill the demand for the CM Punk shirt that he wore the night he debuted. And I believe in 72 hours, it became the highest selling T-shirt ever in Pro Wrestling Tees history. And that was that overtook I believe it was the Bull and Soldier Bullet Club shirt. Mm-hmm. So that begs the question. Guys, in your minds, what is the most iconic T-shirt of all time? And I'm actually going to lead this one off because I haven't led one off yet, and I want to lead this one off. Now, while the CM Punk shirt is just like everywhere, everybody wants it to the point where people are paying $200-$300 for it on eBay. And its demand is so high that Pro Wrestling Tees is now selling it as just a white T-shirt until they get this ringer, stuff going again. But I'll be honest with you. To me, when I think of iconic T-shirt, one T-shirt comes to mind, and that is a simple black T-shirt with some white lettering on there that just simply says Austin 316 with the smoking skull on the back. Austin 316 launched a revolution in the world of professional wrestling. It led us into one of the biggest, the greatest eras in professional wrestling, the Attitude Era. And to me, when that shirt came, when he made that promo at the King of the Ring 1996, Austin 316 signs were at the arena the next day. When that shirt hit, everybody had one. Like you weren't a cool wrestling fan if you didn't have that shirt. And to me, I have to go with Austin 316 as the most iconic T-shirt. Premier, what say you?
Hard to follow, but I grew up in that era too. Man, you couldn't walk 10 feet without somebody in an Austin 316 shirt. And then a year later, you couldn't walk by anybody that wasn't wearing a DX shirt. The original, just Degeneration X, 2 words, suck it on the back. Yep. That's it. I mean, like those two, and then of course another iconic black shirt with white lettering, the NWO. I mean, come on. So you have some real iconic shirts. The Bone Soldier, let's go on that. That's to me more important because that transcended what we were doing. It's easy to talk about some of the shirts we just said, but that shirt, that's New Japan. And you guys know, I mean, we're all old enough to remember the tape trading days where you're not getting, we don't have New Japan World. I can't turn on the TV. I don't have a forbidden door where things are crossing over. Our forbidden door was a handful of talent from Japan that WCW brought over. So we didn't have the access that we have now. I walk outside, I see Okada shirts now. That was something you never saw before. So
I'm wearing, as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm wearing a Tanahashi shirt.
There you go. I mean, it hits. The Punk shirt is up at the top of the list because it's a riff on the WWE version of the CM Punk shirt, which was unbelievably popular. That second summer of Punk that everyone talks about, 2011. Who wasn't repping Chicago at that point? Let's be real. So the new version, it's updated. It's the AEW version. I love it. So that's iconic. But I do have an overall, and I can't believe you guys would pass on this one.
Oh boy.
But yellow shirt, red letters, baby, Hulkamania.
Oh, okay.
You want to talk about changing the world with professional wrestling, where it went from territories, Carney style, to national television. And I'm talking national television when it was a handful of channels. That's it. And you get Hulk Hogan, who is the end all be all of babyface growing up. Every kid from our group, of course, too, every kid saw that. Every kid loved it. Every kid wanted that shirt. They wanted to be that shirt. Be that just, I'm Hulk Hogan. I want to wear the shirt. I have to, So I got to go with Hulkamania. I mean, I can't say not. I mean, that changed the course, and we wouldn't have Austin 316 shirts. We wouldn't have any of those shirts if it weren't for changing the course of professional wrestling being a small territory type show to having national outlets and worldwide coverage from a single company. So I have to lean that way.
I like that. Hot one. What do you got?
Oh, shoot. You guys took all the good ones. I think Joey listed off every iconic shirt he could think of while going through to make his final pick. Left me nothing on the bone here. Left me bone dry.
My bad. Well, let's be clear though. Like, I mean, I gave you my number one. So anything else on that list for reasons, go for it.
And even if it's something that I picked or he picked, this is your opinion. Don't compromise yourself.
Oh, I'm not, because there's one that I think is iconic because of the time frame and what it led to. We've named everything under the sun already. You guys have thrown out the NWO. We've thrown out Hogan. We've thrown out the Bullet Club, DX, all these great things. But I'm surprised that Joe forgot this one company. Because it seems like if you're a wrestling fan, you had one of these shirts. And the fact that the hall that they used to wrestle in is an iconic venue itself lends
Wow.
an iconic shirt as well. Simple black shirt, 3 little letters in barbed wire, ECW.
Nice.
I couldn't agree more on that too, because each one of these shirts, especially all of our top picks, literally was a turning point in professional wrestling. Hulkamania leads to national exposure. Austin 316 brings what ECW was bringing in a small bingo hall in Philly with limited small exposure, word of mouth exposure. Austin 316 took it to heights never knew. Does ECW get as popular without having the look at the Texas Rattlesnake, look at what Austin's gonna do, and then you're like, oh wait, there's a whole bunch of those kind of guys in ECW. That's awesome. Let's watch that too. I mean, they all bleed into each other. You don't get one without another.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about wrestling that I hope a lot of fans understand. It doesn't matter which product you like. Everybody built off of each other. Everybody came from the independents. Everybody came from the territories. All the territories stacked together to make these giant companies. But honestly, without each other, none of this exists, because they each forced each other to get better, and they each brought something new that everybody started using. We wouldn't have hardcore extreme matches without ECW. And it's just it's a borrowing league. It's what wrestling is. They take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and it's a variety show. You get a little bit of everything from everybody. That's what makes this so great.
Right. And one of the things too is if you really sit down and think about it, the groundwork for the Stone Cold Steve Austin character was laid in ECW. If you heard if you listen to any of the promos he cut during his short time in there, there's a lot of Stone Cold Steve Austin in those promos. I don't think a lot of people actually realize that.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about, T-shirts. We talked about all these being representative turning points and like great times in, the professional wrestling history. But when there's always great times, there's also some really bad times. And that's going to kind of lead to our next topic here. So right now we're everybody's on an emotional high with AEW, with New Japan, with Ring of Honor, basically with just about every company outside WWE. And one of the reasons why so many people are down on WWE right now is one Nick Khan, who was just recently hired by Vince McMahon to basically be one of his right-hand men. Since Nick Khan has been in, there's been a lot of wrestlers who have been giving their walking papers and such, and much to the dismay of the fans out there. But for those that are newer fans, they may not recognize the other name that was on that graphic as if you're watching this on YouTube, and that is one Jim Herd. Jim Herd was the man who led WCW, I believe it was like late 80s, early 90s through, I want to say like 91, 92 or whatever. And Jim Herd basically was the reason why Ric Flair went to the WWF in 1991. Flair's gone on record to say he hates this man. Like, Herd wanted to stick him with some sort of Spartacus type gimmick and everything. And it's just a lot. Jim Herd is not someone who's looked upon very favorably in the annals of professional wrestling history. And with that, guys, who did more damage to their company, Nick Khan or Jim Herd? Hot One, lead us off.
This is so hard. Both giant piles of get the bleeper, giant piles of Jim Herd basically forced the golden goose, the cash cow, out of WCW, which led to their fall. Who did worse, Jim Herd or, that other guy that nobody likes to say that says bro a lot? We could have that debate, but he was very instrumental pro bro in making WCW a shit show. Oh, sorry. A show. But then you have Nick Khan. And it's funny how parallels in wrestling works. We have one Khan who's bringing wrestling back to the masses, and another Khan that's helping him inadvertently by letting go these great talent who are able to spread their wings and, really explore their characters. For now, because I feel like WWE is going to be able to still keep going with Nick Khan doing all these bad decisions because WWE has already established their fan base. They're the big juggernaut. They're making money already. They really don't have to care about what the fans think. He's not going to put them out of business. Herd, with what he did, legitimately was one of the main contributors. Even though Bro helped a lot, he was one of the main contributors for WCW going down. So I'm going Tim Herd.
I'm gonna go with it's because this is a really, and Joe Premier came up with this question, so kudos there, because it's one of those ones that really makes you think, because it's something that doesn't get discussed a lot, for one reason or another, because again, these names, I guess, will always live on in infamy in the world of professional wrestling, and both did, some serious damage. But basically, for the reasons that Hot One mentioned, I'm going to also go with Jim Herd, because, again, Jim Herd drove the man who literally carried the NWA/WCW on his back for the majority of the 80s and the earlier part of the 90s out of the company he helped bring to prominence. It's like basically it's basically, I guess, an easy way to put this would be comparing him as like he's basically like the Jerry Krause of WCW. He forced his biggest attraction out of the company. Jerry Krause forced Jordan out. And just for that reason, I mean, yeah, Nick Khan is someone who a lot of people, less wrestling fans, do not like. I don't like him because he's the reason why a lot of people don't have jobs. But at the same time, he's the reason why some of these people, such as Malachi Black, you know, possible. And I mean, I'm trying to think of some others. Like I know
Miro.
Miro. Now they're called Inspiration, formerly the Iconics, while they're finding work and they seem like they're much happier with what they're doing now.
Yeah.
And that's
Cardona.
Cardona, Brian Myers. And that we could go on and on. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's Jim Herd is, he did what he did, but he provided us with some it ended up leading to some really entertaining stuff by Ric Flair with the whole real world champion gimmick and when he came to the WWF. But yeah, to me, when you are the reason that your biggest attraction, the guy that you built your company around, or your company who's like your main player in your company, leaves to go to their biggest rival, to me, that's the ultimate sin there. And for that, yeah, Herd did more damage. Premier, what do you got?
It's funny because peel the curtain back on episode 1 already, but we like rapid fire out some ideas for these questions. Mm-hmm. So this one I had thought about a little bit prior, but I kind of think I might have changed my stance on it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Jim Herd was an absolute clown. I love listening to Ric Flair just shoot on Jim Herd. What does this pizza guy know about professional wrestling? And he doesn't. I mean, if you look at the talent of the late 80s, early 90s that voluntarily put their notice in to WCW and left, from Stan Hansen to the Road Warriors, Cornette, the Midnight Express. Obviously, the biggest fish in here is going to be Ric Flair, and stupid enough to fire the champion of the company while he still had the title belt. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's not a savvy business move. But I don't know if you guys heard the Nick Khan sit down with Ariel Helwani on his interview, and basically takes, and I'm going to circle everything we've talked about so far tonight into one thing here, takes everything we talked about and pretty much just dumps on it, especially the talent. Professional wrestling is built on one major thing, and that is the talent that you provide and put in the ring. Somewhere along the line, the WWE became bigger than the talent they put in the ring. It's about the name. It's about those 3 letters, about signing that contract and working for that company. And what we see now is this renaissance of some of these old territories, like almost territories coming back. AEW, I mean, Impact, New Japan with its US president, New Japan Strong. You have companies that people are considered very like not mainstream market. Companies like GCW getting promoted all the time. Ring of Honor is coming back up real hard and heavy with their talent. And that's exactly it. It's based on the talent. So Nick Khan has this business approach where basically everybody's just a number, not a name. The talent doesn't matter because it's working for the WWE. You're at the big show. You're at the dance here. Doesn't matter about the talent. So when it comes to cutting this talent, it's a very, very, very slippery slope. You're going to lose viewership. You're going to lose a lot of things because eventually even the casual fans start to see through it and go, they're here to make a buck off me. They don't care. Yeah. And then you have what we all consider the biggest pop of all time at this point now, CM Punk. 7 years, 2,766 days. And he comes back, and the fans love it. And he came back for he said it. Came back for the fans, came back for himself. I mean, come on. I was at Ring of Honor. I mean, and I said this earlier, everybody had the signed Tony Deppen signs because he's such a great talent. They want him signed. They want to make sure he's there. He's part of it. Let the man take care of his family. By the way, met his family. Awesome. Wife, his son, like they were there. They're like just the coolest people. But like that's professional wrestling. To Nick Khan, it's not. He blames the talent. Oh, you're not moving the needle. I know that's a catchy phrase these days, but that's what he says. Are we looking to move the needle now or in the future? This is why they don't care about NXT anymore. NXT's dead. NXT died. And blame Nick Khan. Blame Nick Khan for firing guys that he doesn't even know what their contract states. Tommy Yen, Malachi Black. The guy had a 30-day non-compete, and they had no idea until he showed up in AEW. Like, oh my God. Everybody's like, oh, he must be under the 90 days. Oh, are they going to get sued? What happened? How'd this work? They didn't even pay attention to his contract. What a joke. What an absolute joke. Jim Herd, though, I mean, the guy had no business in wrestling. He never should have been part of WCW. And, I touched on a couple things, but the real talk is this. He came out with the worst gimmicks. He was a Dollar Tree version of WWF at the time, where it was very kid-friendly, very gimmicky and silly and all that. They were coming out of the 80s and into the early 90s. And
you mean like the ding dong silly?
Yeah, exactly. Or
silly.
What's I read something about he pitched the hunchbacks. They could never lose because they had a hunch on their back, so their shoulders wouldn't touch the mat.
Not to mention Oz.
Yeah, Jesus, Oz. I know people. SGS gonna hate it. I know people shoot on Kevin Nash as the worst of all time, but he didn't even deserve that Oz gimmick. It was a joke. So that's the kind of stuff we got from Herd. But Nick Khan basically looks at you as a number on a board. You're not a human. I have a problem with that. I hate that companies do that. I can't agree with it. So I'm gonna go Nick Khan. Absolutely.
All right. So great segue actually into our next topic here. You mentioned Nick Khan and NXT as we know it basically being dead and buried. Speaking of which, if you go online, the new logo for NXT is circulating around there, and it looks like somebody would spray paint on a wall in Chicago or speaking of NXT. Should NXT go back to being a developmental promotion versus what it was before, and that was basically WWE's version of Ring of Honor or something along those lines? For me, I want to kind of lead this one up because I've been actually thinking about this. And now, while a lot of people are upset that the NXT that we knew and loved with guys like the Undisputed Era and Bronson Reed and that, is no longer, honestly, I think this is actually the right move to do, and this is why. One of the biggest complaints with most of the wrestling fans, especially those who were diehard NXT fans, were the way that the guys that were going through NXT and getting called up to the main roster were being used on Raw and SmackDown. The reason being is that these were guys who really didn't fit the mold or the mindset of what Vince McMahon was looking for when he's looking for, prospective WWE superstars. And in all honesty, while, again, a lot of us out there aren't happy with the changes that NXT is undergoing, I think this may eliminate that, oh, yeah, these guys were so over in NXT, but now they're being booked like on the main roster. I think this is actually a good move because this actually will limit that, because these guys are going to, the people coming into NXT now are going to be the guys that Vince McMahon is actually going to want on his roster eventually. He's going to see that he's going to have the kind of guys he wants. He's going to have, you know, I mean, hopefully they won't be saddled with knockoff demolition gimmicks like Karrion Kross it seems to have been. But we're going to be seeing, like, you know, some really big guys. We got Odyssey Jones, who, you know, recently was in the NXT Breakout Tournament. We got the guy that most people are calling the next Brock Lesnar, and I believe it's Parker Boudreaux. I mean, there's some really big guys coming up down the pipe. I mean, we may be getting Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson eventually coming our way, along with his brother, who I believe is actually already training down at the Performance Center and stuff. But yeah, I think this is great because, again, the guys that are going to be going through NXT are going to be being brought up the way that Vince McMahon wants. So hopefully, if we start to get emotionally invested in these guys and they're being prepped for the main roster in the way that Vince wants them to be prepped, when they get up to the main roster, maybe we don't see this issue where, you know, someone, let's say, like, I'll just use Bo Dallas. Well, Bo Dallas was insanely over in NXT. When he got up to the main roster, he was in fact, I believe before he got released, I don't think he'd been on TV in like 2-3 years. You know, you look at guys like him, you look at, you know, so many others, I mean, that were just horribly misused on the main roster. And I think the way they're doing this now, I think it's going to lessen that blow. Premier, what do you got?
I can agree with a lot of what you're saying. I mean, you know, we always tend to look at the negatives, look at the guys who are wasted talent on the main roster. I mean, most notably recently, yeah, Karrion Kross. I mean, it's terrible. But there's also an argument here because there's a lot of talent that came from indies that got in there. I mean, I'm talking before it was NXT, when it was FCW, the Shield. I mean, you had Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, then Dean Ambrose, of course, John Moxley. They got ridiculously over. They got called up and they got moved the right way. And now all three are top stars in the industry. You have guys like Cesaro, who found a spot. And of course, you know, I can't agree with his booking over the years in the main roster. I think he's an amazing talent that deserves way better, but he also got himself really over with the crowd, and that has kept him around. And the select few, look at a guy like Kevin Owens. He's not the type of guy that Vince McMahon wanted, and he has gotten himself so over with the mainstream crowd that it works. So there are a lot of successes that came up from NXT. There's a ton of failures. I miss the days when you would see debuting stars in NXT. So developmental side, I think there's actually good opportunity. But I'm going to say, if I were in charge, if I had $1 billion company, I would have made it a separate brand completely. I would keep NXT as the brand of the indie darlings. You know, I know that's a negative connotation used in WWE, but it's the truth. Guys like Gargano, Ciampa, I mean, even somebody, and I'd say it's indie in New Japan, of course, but Finn coming over, Prince Devitt. I mean, let's be real. That gave him such exposure. A guy like Shinsuke, who was amazing in NXT, and in my opinion, floundered in the mainstream setting. It's just not built for him. It's the king of strong style. It's not made for him. WWE main roster is not made for certain people. They could have built something, having guys like the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, who now is rumored to AEW. You know, you have so much wasted talent. They could have had their own brand. They could have, you talk about moving the needle. They would have moved the needle, basically having the world's greatest indie show with a WWE budget and production. I mean, you ask any true wrestling fan, they're going to say that sounds like an absolute amazing idea, and it's wasted. And again, it goes back to, these budget cuts. Get the hell out of here. It's not true. So I see the argument for developmental. I like it, but I think they missed the boat on they had something amazing for a few years and they let it slip out of their hands. And hey, credit to companies like Impact, AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan for scooping up a lot of this talent and letting these performers really do what they've always wanted to do.
So a little bit of a sidebar here, and just kind of something I thought about while you were talking there. Is any of this happening if NXT won the Wednesday Night War?
No.
I agree. Okay. It's just something I thought about here. So we talk about, we just talked about NXT going back to developmental territory. Another hot button topic in the
Hold
world.
on.
Oh,
I didn't get my take.
Oh, my apologies, Hot One. Have at it.
Man, you were about to go the hot topic next, and I'm like, I still got a take.
So that was a segue. I was going to
let the man speak.
They're trying to silence me because I don't fit what they're saying.
You're not fitting in the main roster over here.
Both of you guys.
Hey, why don't you go get some cheese for that wine? All right, man. The floor is yours, dude. Let hit it.
Both of you guys are down with team developmental, it sounds like. Here's my issue with it all. NXT, for what it was in the time frame that it was pre-AEW, was must-see TV. It was the best brand that WWE had going.
Agreed.
What happened after AEW? They started trying to get cute with it. Mm-hmm. They started trying to do more things. We have to put NXT off the network. We need to put it on TV. Oh, we have to put it on directly when the startup is coming so we can kill that startup because we're WWE. What happened? That startup took you out. You only won a handful of times on the Wednesday Night Wars. So now you want to go back to the drawing board and say NXT didn't work. That was a failed process. No, it wasn't. NXT is what you always called it, your developmental brand. But people fell in love with the characters that they were able to create in that developmental brand. People started losing interest when their favorites, such as Breezango, gets pulled up to the main roster and the only thing they're doing is fashion police. People get tired when they see guys that are on this developmental brand and saying, I don't want to go to the main roster. I don't want to do it. I would love to see Tommaso Ciampa on the main roster throwing it up with some of the big guys, but he won't do it because he knows they'll kill him there.
Yep.
And Ciampa is the lifeblood of NXT. Him and Johnny Gargano are NXT.
Yep.
At one point in time, pre-AEW, we were NXT, but that changed because they stopped saying we are NXT when AEW came there. That's the difference. They started trying to say, we want to compete. We want to be better. We're going to show you why we're the big dogs. And they floundered because they started bringing in more talent that they couldn't handle. Everybody didn't get a fair shot. NXT started getting like the main roster. Too many people and not enough time. If they wanted to do this right, and you really want to relaunch NXT, give yourself a developmental brand. But don't call it NXT. Leave NXT on Tuesday nights. Leave us with the established NXT talent. You put your developmental brand, call it PC Center, call it the WCW, what is it called? The Performance Center is the WCCW or whatever the hell. Call it the Performance Center brand. Put that on the network. Let these guys come up old Tough Enough style, old NXT style, FCW style, but put it there. Put it there the same way that Paige, Charlotte, everybody from that time period broke their teeth and cut their teeth. Do the exact same thing, but leave NXT. Have that brand filter into NXT. But the thing is, when that happens, you take that person, if they're over, you put them on the main roster. And you actually give them a chance. Let everybody see your pipeline. Don't just say, oh, we failed, so now we're going to blow it up everybody that we brought in because we were trying to stop this little upstart. You're gone. Sorry. Cutting costs because we're going back to straight developmental. We don't want guys that are established. No, that just sounds like what it's always sounded like Vince McMahon saying. If you didn't do it here, it don't matter. And I have a big problem with that.
Wow. All right. So a lot of talk about change in this little shot here. And one of the biggest potential changes that could be coming the WWE's way is this the long-standing rumors that have been out there about WWE possibly being up for sale is one of the reasons why all these releases were happening, because the WWE was trying to pad their bottom line. So in a perfect world, guys, here's our next topic. If WWE is put up for sale, who should buy it? Hot one, since I almost forgot you the last one, I'm going to let you lead this one off.
Oh, you're so kind. I love you so much for that.
I love you too, man. I can't wait to see you next week, this coming week.
Right here in Chicago, Illinois. Cheap Pop. Throwing an old school gag for you guys there.
Yes.
But to me, with the way the WWE is focused, their mindset, their targeting the kids. They want the kids to buy the merchandise. They want the crazy colored John Cena shirts. They want the green 24/7 belt. They want these, action figures and
Lily dolls.
Yes. All of it. There's only one company I really think can make that work, because this company has an assortment of brands underneath it. But at its base, it is a child company. They cater to the children. Ladies and gentlemen, WrestleMania 40 at Disneyland. I think Disney would be one of the best suitors to buy WWE.
That's pretty good. Premier, what do you got?
Man, I like it. I think you hit the nail on the head. What bigger marketing machine is there in the world that's big enough to buy a company like the WWE than Disney? Not to mention, I mean, that's one aspect of it. Let's talk. You have Disney, who owns ABC and ESPN. So you have,
they own Fox.
They own like
Marvel.
Almost every property. The crossover potential on anything. Can you imagine WWE events on ESPN at this point? It could happen.
Yeah.
But I lean towards another large company that is looking to kind of compete, and that's NBC Universal. I think they're a major player in this. You have already the WWE presence on the Peacock.
Yep.
So the deal's in place already. Although I do have a complaint, because Peacock, that network, is not anywhere near as good as what the WWE network was. Let's be clear on that. I mean, I don't understand how they spent that much money to buy the WWE network and not take all the features and all the items that went with it, because the Peacock app, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
If you go through your cable provider, it kind of sucks. It's not great. It's not user friendly. It's laggy. It's slow. I mean, I haven't noticed. Do they finally add in where you can pause something live?
No.
I mean, the WWE network
hasn't been implemented.
Yeah, the network's been doing that since what, 2015, 2016 when it launched?
I think they started that from the day that it was launched.
Yeah.
That was the day one.
Watch pay-per-views live. You can't start from the beginning anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand why they didn't take those features. It was right there. They should have some kind of rights to that since they bought the network. Well, at least the network rights in the US. But either way, I think they're a major player for what they're doing, what they're trying to put out there. I think they have enough pull especially with the national TV exposure, especially with the options that they have. They already have the network built in to their system. I think that's a very easy way to continue on. But the bigger picture than all of this, and I know DDJ, you got your thoughts on this coming up, but the bigger picture to all that to me is the actual future of the company. I mean, do we factor out people like we just complained about Nick Khan just being a terrible human being and treating employees like garbage? Do we get rid of that? We get rid of the McMahon era of professional wrestling, and who do we bring in? Who's running the show? Who's booking anything? What happens to a brand like NXT? There's a lot of questions there. Go ahead, DDJ. Hit me up.
So I'm gonna go with you on this. I like what the Hot One had to say about Disney. I think that's a great, talking about the marketing machine that Disney is, because, and like, again, all the major brands that they own and stuff. But I'm with you. I'm gonna say, I think it's good. I think NBC Universal would be more logical because of the fact that WWE's content is on Peacock. They also have Monday Night Raw. They already have NXT. It'd be interesting to see what would happen with SmackDown on Fox, if NBC Universal bought the WWE. But to me, you mentioned about who do they bring in to run the show if they buy this from the McMahons? And I don't know who they would get, but I tell you one person, like if I were the one making the decision, I wouldn't have to go very far to pinpoint the guy I would want running things if I was the head of NBC and I bought the WWE. And that is the son-in-law of Vince McMahon, Triple H. I think if NBC Universal were to buy WWE and they wanted someone who could really get the WWE to where they thought WWE should be with all of this, talent they got and everything. To me, there's nobody better that could get the WWE to where I think NBC Universal would want it, and that would be one Paul Levesque. I really think he would be the guy. He should be the guy that if this were to happen, that should run the show. And I think he would be someone that the fans would universally accept. Like if this happened, it's like they come out, NBC comes out and says we're buying WWE and we're putting, Triple H in charge. I think that would be met with an overwhelmingly positive response by the fan base.
Triple H gave us the NXT that we loved.
Yep.
Vince killed it.
I was just going to agree with that statement and say exactly what you said. We just sat here and talked about the future of NXT and this era of NXT that we all loved so much, and the man responsible for that was Triple H. And I don't know. I mean, I've never met the man. I have no idea, but I would like to think that he was so successful with NXT because he still thinks like one of the boys.
Yeah.
He's in the office, he's making decisions, but he's also one of the guys who's in that locker room for years and years and years and years. So he knows the grind. He knows coming up, and he came up at a time where you still had territories, where you still had to pay your dues. Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be an amazing get. You still have a little bit of the WWE of what we would think of it, but in the image that we have all hoped for years, that eventually one day when Vince is done, Triple H takes over. Yep. So I love that. I love that thought, DDJ. I mean, I don't think there's anybody better in the world that could run it.
Right. I just think that would be the best possible the best possible outcome for all of this. So we're kind of starting to wind down here. We got a couple more topics to go over. We are going to go with, let me see here. So we're going to go with something that we talked about earlier with crossovers, things like that. And that is, and this is also a phrase that is tied to the guy we just talked about, Triple H. The Forbidden Portal. Is it best for business? Premier, let's have you lead this one off.
Yes and no. Yes, if it's done the right way. My biggest problem with companies working with each other is kind of what we're seeing for All Out. You had a wrestler who is under contract to AEW, two wrestlers under contract to AEW wrestle for a title for a company that they're not signed to. Change title hand. I mean, am I the only person that has a problem with seeing the Impact Championship disputed between two AEW contracted wrestlers on AEW shows? And not a mention of Impact. So where's it helping Impact? That's my problem. Where's it helping Impact? Where is it helping shows like that? I understand it's going to be there because you have guys who, like Moxley, I think was one of the first ones who came in and was like, hey, I'm doing this deal with Japan. I want to wrestle there. I want to wrestle New Japan. And, hey, kudos to Tony Khan because he made that happen. He said, okay, we'll put you over as one of the top stars of AEW, but you're free to go wrestle in Japan. I like the concept. I like the idea. I like certain aspects of it. Sometimes you don't know who's going to show up. Who popped when Kenta came out of the crowd on Dynamite one night? I mean, to me, as a New Japan fan, that was awesome. I loved it. Having the Good Brothers on national TV, I can't complain. I love those boys. They come out, they have a good time, they have fun, and they're who they are all the time. And now you have the Good Brothers Impact champions. You have the Good Brothers showing up with Kenny and the Elite, and then now you also have the Good Brothers in New Japan Strong battling the OG Bullet Club. So you have these guys everywhere. So is it good for the boys and the ladies? Of course it is. There's more shows, there's more bookings. They have a little bit more freedom to do what they want. That's been gone and dead for years with the WWE machine running everything. But it's bad when you book things to make companies look weak. Everybody's working together. Everybody should get that proper share. And I think something like you're devaluing the Impact title by not even having Impact wrestlers wrestle for it. And I know, Hot One, I think you'll take this. A guy like Moose, a guy well-deserving of a title run there, well-deserving to be the big star that, he is. He is physically impressive. He's a great worker. And where's he in the title picture? Nowhere. So it's good, but it's also bad when it's not booked right.
Hot One?
110% agree, man. And I didn't have a big issue with the Forbidden Door when we first started out because Moxley, U.S. champion for IWGP, fantastic. He has that belt. He could defend it down here. Why not? I didn't have an issue with Kenny Omega going to Mexico. Why not? Mega champion. They called him the Omega champion. I freaking popped. I loved it. I thought that was greatness. Kenny goes to Impact. You know what? Rich Swann is the champion. That's an Impact guy. Fine. I'm cool with it. Kenny goes through the guy who should be working at Hot Topic, Mr. Sami Callihan. All right. Kenny goes through Moose. Okay. So now you're waiting and saying, what Impact guy is going to come back and bring honor back to their brand? Because this outsider, this invader, has came and taken their top title. Which one of our boys is going to go back and get it? But instead of having one of their boys bring their belt back, their belt gets lost to an Impact, one of the, I'm not going to call him an Impact original, but at least to a former Impact wrestler in Christian Cage on AEW. And the main reason that he won that is to build suspense for All Elite, for the AEW All Out. That's the only reason that title dropped, to give people the doubt that maybe Kenny Omega could lose the title on Sunday. Mind you, this comes on the heel of Kenny Omega beating Andrade El Idolo in Mexico City for the Mega Championship when Andrade brought out Ric Flair. And rumors were that AAA wanted Andrade to go over. But Tony Khan asked, not yet. We still have something working. And apparently it's in the contract, the working contract that Tony Khan has to say over the finishes of Kenny Omega's matches when he's not in AEW. That's my issue. when it's time for him to drop the belts, when it's time for us to start playing fair, I know you're the big boy in this situation. You're the main name. You're the draw. But you have to let guys from the other promotion get the rub back. You're bringing the big name recognition. You're bringing the eyes. Kenny Omega being an Impact gave Impact some of the biggest draws they've had in a very long time. But he shouldn't have lost their world title to somebody who is not contracted 110% to Impact Wrestling.
Yes.
They had the story built up with Moose. Everything Moose had to do to fight to get the TNA heavyweight title, him defending it like it was the Impact title because they had their issues with Tessa. They got their title back. Moose got his shot. He lost. Moose went against Omega. Young Bucks helped them. He lost. They should have had somebody from Impact. If you didn't want it to be Moose, I'm fine with that. Moose is going to get that title eventually.
Eddie Edwards.
You could have had the heartbeat of Impact, Eddie Edwards. You could have had, even at this point, I would have been fine with random. Put insert name here from Impact. Hell, I would have been fine if Myers came and won it. If Cardona came and won it. Somebody that is on Impact every week. But it didn't happen. Yeah. And that's where this Forbidden Door is getting a little sticky. Because the same Forbidden Door that brought us some really good matches doesn't look like it goes both ways. And some of these companies might be starting to figure that out, which may be why we're not getting Tanahashi and Moxley.
Man, you guys really nailed it there. I'm going to triple down with you there. Like Premier said, if done correctly, absolutely this is best for business because it allows us to see, dream matches and scenarios, and I mean, at the same time, yeah, like you mentioned, no, because a lot of us were excited when Kenny Omega won the AEW title, but they were like, you got to tune into Impact to hear the first interview. I mean, that was a start right there, and that was big. But you really, I mean, other than seeing like the Good Brothers on Dynamite every week and on Impact every week, you really don't see many other, if any other, talents from Impact on AEW. But that being said, we see, we're seeing matches, like you said, Kenny Omega versus Andrade in AAA. You're seeing, all the stuff going on with the Good Brothers being in New Japan. I mean, there's a lot of good that can be done with this. I mean, heck, we're seeing, one company that we didn't bring up, with all of this is the NWA. Yep. I mean, they by when this drops, the NWA will have had their, women's show Empower, and then also the 73rd anniversary show already have happened. And one of the matches on Empower was going to be Impact Wrestling champion Deonna Purrazzo defending up against NWA superstar Melina. We're and stuff. We're seeing in the women's tag team title tournament in the NWA, we're seeing from AEW, we're seeing Red Velvet and Kylan King. I mean, there's a lot of good out there. I mean, we saw, like you mentioned, you brought up Kenta. We saw Nagata versus Moxley. Heck, we saw them team up to go up against the Good Brothers, at Resurgence. We're going to see, we mentioned about how we're not going to get to see Moxley versus Tanahashi, at least right now, but we are going to see Moxley versus, oh my God, who was it?
Kojima.
Thank you. So I mean, there's a lot of good out there. When done properly, we get to see great things like what we're seeing in certain aspects of, professional wrestling. But yeah, at the same time, we're seeing things where, like you mentioned, it would have made more sense and really made some Impact Wrestling superstar if they had been the one to take the title off Kenny Omega, because with no disrespect to Christian, because I love Christian, and spoiler alert, I'm going to be wearing a Christian Cage shirt probably to All Out. But I mean, it's not going to have as much meaning to it now when someone from Impact takes that title off Christian Cage, because it would have had the most impact if an Impact Wrestling superstar would have taken the title off of Kenny Omega when Kenny was at his hottest and stuff. So yeah, Good. There is bad about it, but I mean, the one good thing about it is that it's really given us wrestling fans it's allowing us to see things we might have never been able to see. And so a couple more topics here. So we are about 2/3 of the way through 2021. We're getting ready to hit September. And gentlemen, we are 8 months into 2021. We still got 4 months to go, but I want to ask you guys, who is the MVP of pro wrestling so far in 2021? I'm going to lead. You know what? Actually, I'm going to save mine for the end. Hot One, start us off.
Oh, MVP for 2021 so far. There's a lot of deserving people, a lot of people who have done a lot of good in this year. Even though I just complained about them, which deservedly so, you could love and still complain about something. Give me Kenny Omega for the belt collector storyline, for everything he's done. For my money right now, Kenny Omega is having a run like Flair back in the 80s, where he's having a match with every promotion's best, having a good match with top guys from all over the place, and you can't say that he's having bad matches. MVP of 2021 so far, Kenny Omega.
Premier?
It's such a hard call because, I look at a lot of different angles. I don't just look at the in matches, like in ring work. I'm looking at like who's just hot, who's over, who gets those huge pops when they come out, just to hear him speak, who's cutting the best promos, who's doing all those things. I can get down and say Kenny because Kenny is really like throwing. I mean, Kenny, I don't want to compare it and I don't want it to come across that way, but Bret Hart always got those really, really great comments of, and he can go out and he can work any type of match. He can work a real technical match, he can work a high flyer match, he can work a big bruiser heavyweight powerhouse match. And love him or hate him, Kenny's really the guy who can do that. He can work with pretty much anyone, get them over, get them moving, and just make you really dig into it and deep dive. So I love that, but man, MVP. I can't say Kenny's my MVP of the year. I might not have one. I can't tell you that somebody really popped off. I might have one after All Out. I might have an MVP of 2021 there. I'll say this. My MVP of 2021, if what we see is what I think will happen, my MVP of 2021 is going to be CM Punk. But that's a big if. That's a big if. I read a lot of little rumors on the internet, people on the set of Heels going, oh man, Punk got in the ring. That's where he got the bug back when he started getting in the ring, started getting that feeling back again. But there's also a lot of people that said watching him move in the ring while doing that show, it's like 7 years hadn't passed. The man just moves, he goes. And I think if he pulls off the kind of match he's going to pull off with Darby, I can tell you with one match and a couple promos, he'll be my MVP of 2021. Because let's be real too. He broke the internet last week. Not a single person wasn't talking about the return of CM Punk. I mean, you want to talk about taking AEW to the big time? You just signed you signed a ghost. You signed the Enigma just flying someone through the ether. You signed CM Punk. Crowds chanted CM Punk day in, day out, every show. You heard it at house shows. You heard it at WWE pay-per-views. It didn't matter. People wanted CM Punk. And his name took on the connotation that he is. When people didn't like what the product was, they'll chant CM Punk. Because, hey, let me remind you of one of your greatest failures of not having one of the best talents in the world. So if he pulls off an amazing match with Darby, CM Punk will be my MVP of 2021 so far.
All right, so I got one here, and I honestly, Hot One brought up Kenny Omega, who was someone I initially thought of when I came up with this topic, but I'm gonna go a little bit off the board here. I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball at you guys here. My MVP of 2021 isn't a wrestler. My MVP of 2021 isn't a manager.
Oh, you sly dog.
Mm-hmm.
I think you guys might have figured out where I'm going.
Yep.
We talked about CM Punk coming to AEW. We talked about the Forbidden Portal. We've talked about guys like Andrade El Idolo. We've talked about the Good Brothers being on, AEW. None of this is possible, or none of this happens if it wasn't for my pick for MVP of 2021. I'm going with Tony Khan.
Oh, I thought you were going Tony Schiavone. My bad. Sorry.
I did too.
No.
You guys are jerks.
No. Go DJ. Tell me, because I can 100% agree with you. Go for it.
Yeah,
because with me, and it's for one simple reason. Without Tony Khan, a lot of what we've talked about on this show does not happen. Without Tony Khan, we're not talking about CM Punk being the biggest pop ever. We're not talking about the Forbidden Portal. We're not talking about guys like Andrade El Idolo. We're not talking about guys like Malachi Black.
Hey, can I interject? We're not talking about NXT going back to developmental, and we're probably not talking about the release of a lot of WWE talent because they're still going to be the big dog in the yard at that point. So without Tony Khan, I don't think the state of the business as it is this moment today is happening.
The man made a big splash and a big wave in the company and in the business as a whole. Don't be surprised if Tony Khan's name isn't mentioned up there with the McMahons as people who changed the landscape of wrestling.
Agreed. And for the reasons that I mentioned, for what you guys just contributed, to me, there's really nobody that's been more valuable to the sport we love called professional wrestling than Tony Khan. And that's really all I got to say. I mean, without Tony Khan, me and Jovan, we're not getting all hyped up and giddy for All Out next week because without Tony Khan, we're not going to All Out. We're doing something else on Sunday, September 5th, and that. So I can't think of anybody that's more deserving of this title as, MVP of pro wrestling. But speaking of All Out, that's going to bring us up to our last topic here. So a three-parter here with All Out coming up on Sunday, September 5th. 3 questions here, and it's going to be a little bit of a rapid fire so we can kind of start wrapping things up. The match you're most excited for, what match should main event All Out, and what match will main event All Out. And I have a feeling, at least I think the bottom 2, I think we're going to be pretty unanimous or pretty close to being unanimous on this. So let's kick off the one I think is going to spark some interesting discussion. That's the first one. Guys, which match are you most excited for in All Out? And Hot One, let's start with you.
But there could be no other answer than the CM Punk Darby Allin match. We have to see what does Punk have in the tank. 7 years is a long time to be away, but it's not like CM Punk was out there gaining weight. So we'll see if ring rust is real. We'll see, if it's true that you're hearing online that heels gave Punk that itch, that he felt it again.
Mm-hmm.
And you seen him in Chicago in front of his hometown. You could look in the man's eyes. And what
you could feel it.
You saw that passion. So I think this match, just like the Premier said earlier, this match is going to dictate how the rest of the year goes. That's the match I'm most excited for.
Premier?
Yeah, I don't think there's another answer at this point. 7 years is a long, long time. And a long time to wait for somebody who left when he was at the top of his game. Let's not sleep on that. Whether he's in WWE, I don't care where he was wrestling. CM Punk was going out having classics with anybody, putting guys over, making guys who really weren't look like $1 million.
Right back.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Get out of my head, man. No, it's true though. It's true because he was just that's the kind of guy he is though. I've been following Punk since Ring of Honor, and there's not a lot of bad CM Punk matches out there. Even the stuff that when he was in the I don't even like calling it this, the WWE's version of ECW. It should have been something else, but even then, he was out there working and working and working to get himself over.
Yep.
There's not a lot of bad matches out there with him. So, but I think the hype, the fact that they're in Chicago, I mean, the stars have aligned. CM Punk, that match, that's 100% it. I think people, you're going to see a huge buy rate. People are going to be curious to see what CM Punk does.
Okay. So yeah, that's the obvious choice, and I'm definitely gonna say that is one of the matches I'm most excited for because it's more of the intrigue. Like, how's CM Punk gonna do? What's he gonna look like in ring shape? How's he gonna, how's he gonna mesh with Darby Allin? And if you guys want to add a little something to this, because I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna allow you guys the same luxury. Honestly, there's another match on this show that I am just as excited for. And it's one that's really not getting a lot of talk out there in the wrestling world. And I think it's a shame because both of these guys are super talented. Guys, I'm about just as excited for, the Punk Darby Allin match. But the other match that I'm really excited for, and one that I'm really looking forward to being able to witness in person, and it can involve somebody that we talked about a little earlier, and that's Andrade El Idolo versus Pac. I think that is going to be just a sensational match. I mean,
yes.
I believe this is the first time these two have ever set foot in the ring against each other. They've got contrasting styles, but I think it's one of those ones where I think they're going to work really well together. And do not be surprised if this match is going to be a match that a lot of people say steals the show at All Out. So obviously we all threw out Punk and Allen. I mean, I'm throwing out Andrade versus Pac. I mean, guys, do either one of you have another match besides the obvious that you're looking forward to?
I mean, that's probably like my match that would steal the show.
Yeah.
And prior to the announcement of Punk Darby Allin, that would probably be my top match. I don't really see the rest of the card is good, but not great to me. It's good, and I think a card like that has so much upside because when you have a card that's good but not great, you're going to see some amazing performances that are going to knock your socks off and be like, oh, wow, that was way better than I thought. And you'll look back and go, wow, that was such a great card.
That there's matches not announced yet, though, that can fall in the category.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I mean, there's they may add, one or two more matches, but I mean, after with Rampage, they announced Miro versus Eddie Kingston.
Yeah.
Then, as a result of the tag team eliminator tournament, we're getting the Lucha Brothers versus the Bucks inside a steel cage. And that, I mean, all in all, again, and this is one of the reasons why AEW is such a great company, is that there's literally going to be something on that show for everybody. But I just, like I said, me being the type of fan I am, I'm drooling over Andrade versus Pac. Hot one. I mean, anything else you want to contribute here before we wrap it up?
Let me say this, man. I think the one that I'm alluding to that I hope they add to the card that I think could actually be a lot better than it seems on paper would be Brian Cage and Ricky Starks.
Ooh.
To me, that feud has been building up. If they put it on this card, it could be a match that's a show stealer.
All right, guys. Well, That's going to do it for the official debut episode of our little show here.
Oh, wait.
What?
Can't end the show yet. That was a 3-part question, buddy.
Yeah.
Who's going to end it and who should end it?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
It is late.
Yeah. So, all right. I think we're all going to be in agreement in these next two. So just rapid fire. What match should main event All Out?
Chris Jericho, MJF.
Ooh. I think I see why you would say that. I'm picturing in my head. It's not my choice, but Premier?
I'm old school. I always go with the title as the last match. Kenny Omega, Christian Cage.
That's mine as well too. I think, your title match should always be the match that closes out the show. I like Hot One's take though on Jericho versus MJF, especially because I kind of that leads into I think who Hot One's picking for that. But so we talked about what match should main event. I think this one here we're all going to be unanimous on. What's main eventing All Out?
Omega Christian.
Wow.
You think it's going to go that way?
Yeah.
I don't see. I got to disagree.
I guarantee you they do not wait to put Punk on last.
And I think that's a mistake. You cannot blow your wad beginning or mid card with that. You have to build that crowd up all night with every other match that's going on. And by the time you hear Cult of Personality hit in the main event, come on.
Oh, I 110% agree.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling the title is main eventing.
Okay. So with recent developments or recent rumors that are circulating about All Out, if the title match main events the show, I could see a certain someone showing up after that match that would really, blow the roof off the Now Arena. So I could see that happening, but I got to go with actually, I'm going to go with Darby Allin versus CM Punk because, Premier said, you don't want to blow your wad early. Like, putting that match on first, probably not a good idea. I mean, putting Punk on first on Rampage, great idea because, again, that was the worst kept surprise, worst kept secret, and that was by design. I mean, it was pretty much obvious. It was so obvious, and you just, because if they had held that off, the crowd would have been chanting for CM Punk the whole show. Honestly, I mean, the buy rates, the needle, everything has moved because of CM Punk. The viewership, ticket, even the resale value or the value of on the secondary market of tickets for All Out literally jumped when CM Punk announced he was going to be there.
I could sell my tickets right now and make a lot of money and just watch it at home.
You want to be there, to see that match,
oh hell yeah, I want to be there.
So, I
think you're muted.
Yeah, he is muted.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got to be there. You got to get me a shirt, brother. So you need to be there.
But
hold on. I want to jump in real quick with something. Sure. I get both answers. I get both sides. But let's be real here. I mean, didn't CM Punk just tease Daniel Bryan on TV? Didn't CM Punk post on his Instagram that handshake from Ring of Honor back in the day? Do we not
be on his shoes?
Yeah,
or something like that.
So how do we not think that Bryan comes in after the main event? Oh my God, CM Punk goes over. He's returned, has the greatest match. Everybody can't believe it's been 7 years. It's like he never left. Amazing. And then you hear music that's not quite familiar, but might be. And you look at the crowd, the reaction, and here comes Bryan Danielson. Straight to the ring, gets in the ring, and what do? They recreate that same handshake that Punk just posted on Instagram yesterday or the day before. Come on. Tell me that's not going to end a pay-per-view. And last but not least, does Floyd Mayweather fight at 9 p.m. or 1 a.m.?
I could really give two. I could really give two about Floyd Mayweather.
Well, I understand that, but the point is, he's not fighting at 9 p.m. He's the draw. He's the reason everybody else is there. And when he's the reason everybody else is there, everybody who's on that undercard to lead up to it is making more money because they're getting more buys, they're selling more merch, and more people are tuning in to watch what they're doing. Exactly. Everybody, Hogan's main eventing, everybody wants to be on the card. Stone Cold Steve Austin's main eventing, everybody's fighting to be on that card. CM Punk main events, everybody who wrestles before him gets a little bit more rub because of what Punk brings to the table. Just in promos. We haven't even seen him do anything in the ring yet. So I that's why I go with what I go with.
All right.
Some interesting takes there. I mean, I kind of like that idea. I kind of like the idea if our the title match main events, whoever wins, maybe we get that face off with Bryan Danielson and more than likely, Kenny Omega, which is a match that a lot of people would want to see. I mean, we may get Bryan Danielson. They may hold off on him to the, the Arthur Ashe show. We don't know, but that's kind of one of the things. Just if you want to see what happens, go out, buy it on DR Live, Fight TV, whatever, traditional pay-per-view, go to a movie theater and watch it now and stuff. Or, if you want to, go plunk out some money on the, secondary market and get yourself a ticket and be there in person and that. So, but for real now, this brings us to the end of our very first episode of Shooting and that. So, but guys, before we go, I just want to let you know that this show is part of the Johners Podcasting Network. Go to wrestlingwithjohners.com. We are officially on the site now. We're going to be coming out with some social media links for this show specifically. But in the meantime, guys, if you have any thoughts, if you have any comments, if you guys have any suggestions for topics we should shoot on, please, you guys, and you want to know how to reach us, guys, let's give them our social medias. You can find me on Facebook at Dennis Day Jr. You can also follow me on Twitter at Dennis W. Day Jr. Premier, how can people reach out to you?
Hit me up on Twitter at Joe Kuhn, the Premier Joey K. I will get back to you. I'll respond to you. Joe Kuhn on Facebook. Look me up. Shoot me a message. Let me know what you want to see on the show, what you want to hear. The Premier listens to the fans. We're here for the people. So, Hot One, let us know.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Hot One is on Twitter at DFW Chairman. DFW as in Dallas Fort Worth, Chairman as in Sean Spears himself. DFW Chairman. Jump on there. We'll share some good wrestling facts. We'll talk about the latest issues that's going around the whole companies at large. If you want to shoot a Twitter, I'll shoot it back. If you want to shoot a DM, slide on in. Guys, we are here for you. That's why we do this whole thing, DJ. Tell them why we do this, buddy.
We don't do it for The Rock. We do it for the people.
Hell yeah.
Hey, one more thing. Just in case you want to tell me what your opinions are, what your thoughts are, come on out. I'm at Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor, Sunday night, September 12th. I'll be there live in the crowd, going nuts, watching a 4-way elimination match for the Ring of Honor title, watching the pure title match that everyone's been waiting for, Jonathan Gresham versus Josh Woods. Going to be an amazing night. So it's going to be wild. That whole card's going to be crazy. Also, they are teasing real hard former released NXT stars. I'm really hoping we get a Bobby Fish sighting back in Ring of Honor again. So
he's got a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees right now, by the way.
Oh, he does. I haven't looked.
Yeah, I think he just opened the store because there's a Bobby Fish shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees right now.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll be there live Sunday night, September 12th, 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. Come hit me up. Come party with the premiere.
And since we're plugging shows that we're going to be at, if you want to hit me up or hit up Giovanni Tuhati, we will both be in attendance for AEW All Out. Giovanni will be sitting near ringside. I believe he said he got second row. I will be sitting up in an upper level suite, thanks to the wonderful people at Pro Wrestling Tees, as well as the wonderful people at the Now Arena. So thank you so much to Ryan Barkin for generously donating a suite. Thank you to the Now Arena for picking my name to have won that suite and stuff. So, but yeah, again, guys, you know how to reach us on Facebook. You know how to reach us on Twitter. We want to interact with you. We want you to feel like your ideas and contributions count. We don't want to look at you like Nick Khan looks at the WWE wrestlers. And that, so, but gentlemen, it's I know it's about 1 a.m. where the premiere is, and it's about a little past midnight where we are and stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 1 of Shooting